Superintendent, decisions have to be made, and River Valley School District, along with all of the others around our area, having to look outside in the early morning hours and determine, is it safe to get the kids to school? And that's probably a good place to start with Philip Martell, the River Valley School District. Our visit presented by Marcus and Mack, voted Best Law Firm and Best Personal Injury Lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Mr. Martell, I know that when the snow comes down and you're having to make that decision in the early morning, there's a lot that goes into it. Of course, you have a little bit more flexibility now that there are increased capabilities to have digital school, but still, those decisions you don't take lightly.
So I always tell people all the time that it's one of the toughest challenges that I've faced since being a superintendent, because so many things to factor in, as you said. Like, this is even with in having 175 square miles makes things a little more difficult with the multiple communities, because obviously everybody does things a little different. So you have to factor all that in. And, while we have the ability to do the flexible instruction day, it still doesn't, you want to get kids in the building in their seats. It's still a better way to learn. So, it's a challenge when you it's a challenge each time. And you have some people that are happy and some people that are not. So it's one of those things you just got to know you got to deal with.
Yeah. Well, the kid that had the algebra test, he was happy today. The teacher who wanted to administer it, probably not so happy. But
no doubt.
Those decisions have to be made. All right. Speaking of decisions, I wanted to talk with you about this. You wrote a letter to the editor, a letter to the general public, really, as the superintendent of River Valley School Districts, and you were talking about a number of different things, but meeting, as you called it, the diverse needs of our students and family, and wholeheartedly supporting the initiatives outlined in recent discussions on expanding school choice and parental involvement in education. What spurred you? What made you say, this is something I need to do, get this out into the public?
A few things. I mean, we have to, as a country, the way we've administered public education is never changed. So from when we look at the student success, we continue to pour millions of dollars into education to continue to do the same thing. But we're not obviously seeing success with students. We still have students that are struggling to do basic fundamentals. But really, and then giving them the opportunity when they do to change. Okay, if the system's not going to change, the student has to have the ability, if they want to change and create greater access. And that's really what I've seen with the success of the STEAM Academy. The barriers of zip codes should no longer prevent public education from growing. We need to change. And students have to have the ability to do it, but more importantly, parents have to have an input into that as well. And they certainly have that right. So I just think now, with the new administration coming in, I do think we're going to see a change. And I think, and really, Todd, if you're producing a good product, if you have a very successful school district and you've got good things going on, you shouldn't be intimidated by change, and you shouldn't be intimidated by choice. But I think it really holds people more accountable, but it really gives options to students to now take those barriers away, to allow them to have that opportunity to gain that educational foundation and choice that they really want.
One of the most interesting aspects of your letter to me was the idea of parents having input on their children's education. In this past year, a couple of years, our federal government has become so involved that they are forcing upon parents the idea of whatever it is that is their political or whatever bent they have in one direction or another, that has to be the only way that an education can be approached, to the point that they have actually, the federal government branded parents as insurgents for taking part in school board meetings and things of that nature.
No question about it. And I guess if people don't understand that November 4th was a clear message that people don't want to have what you just described, I don't know what else they need to see, because that is exactly it. We've had so many unfunded mandates handed down with things being forced on us, and it really it wasn't fair. And parents need to have input. Who else wants to have input like that? To me, it made no sense. But I think November 4th was a wake-up call on a lot of different fronts, and I'm just hoping that we can get back to, doing what we need to do is educate students, but give them opportunities no matter where it is or where it's at. The zip code should no longer define be a barrier for students. If Indiana School District's doing something great and it has an opportunity for one of our students to be able to go do something that we're not doing, they should have that ability to do that. And that's really what has to happen. I could see if we were having tremendous success over the last number of years. We're not. It's almost like Groundhog Day in a lot of these places. That's why we're constantly evolving to change here. I mean, my teachers and our administrators know that we're not changing, we're not evolving, we're being stagnant, because that's hurting our students in the long run, giving them those current opportunities, current trends of today. So, I wholeheartedly agree with you, and that has to change. Parents have to have a role, and I'm hoping that takes place. And I hope there is a federal mandate on choice come out, because I think it's going to be, and I think you'll see even some of the people in our state. Our governor was for choice, but when you have restrictions tied to what you just described, it's very hard, especially sometimes when it does include money. But I mean, the power have to come back to the local authorities. School districts should be making the best decisions for their residents and their students. Harrisburg and Washington, D.C. should not.
You made the point that your River Valley STEAM Academy is, very much involved in a philosophy of education that embraces real-world applications and real solutions in that way to meet the demands that are out there. Bottom line is, education can't be all about getting a great job and having a great career, but that has to be an aspect of an education, and a very important aspect of it.
No question about it. And, that's exactly it. We are providing those opportunities. But if students in other districts could be provided those opportunities, those barriers have to come down. Because unfortunately, what a lot of districts that are looking at, we have a lot of kids interested in coming. There's still resistance there from outside districts. They're just worried about the money. And that's unfortunate, because at the end of the day, the student suffers. Those are the barriers. They have to have the ability to do something, to be able to make that choice and make that decision, because if not, they're sometimes taught going into an unrelated career profession that they have no interest in doing, but it's being kind of forced on them. That's just wrong. And parents can help, parents know their son or daughter better than anybody. So why would they not have an aspect to be able to put input into that?
You then advocate for policymakers, both at the federal and state levels, to get involved in this conversation and to finally further the entire discussion about educational philosophy and whether it is adequate in today's day and age, especially with the advances in technology, the ability of students to go remotely to classes that are well beyond their school district boundaries, their geographical boundaries. What do you think need to be the next steps that are taken in this whole discussion?
It's just that those are some tough discussions, because there are going to be challenges. If you allow choice, obviously the question is, what does that look like, from a policy perspective, but what does it look like, what does it do for districts? So if we have a STEAM academy that's popular and we have all of a sudden choice comes and 40 students want to come, what if my building's not big enough? Is there construction money that would potentially come for that, in addition to the building? Different things like that. Is there a cap? Is there priority for River Valley students first, obviously, then outside students? So those are the discussions, what does choice truly look like? And I think we have an opportunity to look at where it's been very successful, Florida, where it's not been very successful, Arizona at times. So I think that needs seriously evaluated from a policy perspective, and I think that's what we need our legislators and congressional people to do.
Philip Martell, Superintendent, River Valley Schools, with us. As a superintendent, of course, and one who right now, even at this moment, is involved in fashioning a budget for the new coming year. Charter schools have been a bit of a lightning rod in terms of the amount of money that they are costing local school districts. Obviously, with what you're advocating, there would have to be some sort of new philosophy in terms of funding our schools as well. Couldn't there? Is that not really a part of this whole equation?
It is, but if you think about it, we have 500 school districts in Pennsylvania. There are probably a quarter of them that shouldn't be school districts. And I'll go back to even our merger. Salzburg last year was graduating 35 students. It's not, my former alma mater, Clareton School District, is graduating 80 students. these districts shouldn't be districts. I think choice gives an opportunity for students, but it also is going to force mass consolidations across the state, which is needed because districts are, they're struggling financially, to your point, from funding. They're not providing the adequate resources necessary to provide that quality education. So, it may kind of kickstart things. We've known, everybody's talked about it. We have too many districts in Pennsylvania. We all know it, but what's been done about it? Nothing. I think a choice opportunity kind of forces that issue to the top. And and it'll start. You'll see a plethora of districts just consolidate across the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I think there are some school districts in Pennsylvania that are public schools graduating classes of 8 or 10 students.
Yeah, right. It's crazy.
Teacher salaries in those districts, because of the tax bases, are in the $20,000 range. So yeah, that's a formula.
And what kind of individual are you getting in today's day and age when a student comes out with $120,000 in debt just to teach? What kind of individual do you think is going to? That's why when we did our contract, we have the highest starting salary in the state of Pennsylvania. And I'm proud of it because we had an opening for first grade and we had 100 applicants. We don't need to hire 40 teachers here, but when we want to hire one or two, we want the best. So we have that ability now to do that, and that's really what the point behind the contract was.
Philip Martell, Superintendent, River Valley School District. This obviously is a discussion that can go on and on and on, and maybe we'll visit you again and talk about this as we watch the coming year and how school districts are approaching the idea of education, the state and federal government as well. Thank you so much for being with us today.
I appreciate it, Todd, as always, and I'll talk to you soon.
Philip Martell with us this morning. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160.